Baby not crawling at 10 months because they don't like being on their hands and knees? Then this video is for you. Hi, my name is Cherrick Gordon. I've been a pediatric physical therapist for over 2 decades. I show proactive parents like you how to use simple touch, movement, and your baby's home environment to help your baby progress from one motor milestone to the next. Today we're talking about babies who do not like to get up on hands and knees, and so they're not crawling. I'm going to share with you some simple exercises and techniques to use to help your baby get going. If that sounds good to you, grab your baby, get down on the ground, and let's get into it. I advise my parents to start where your baby is. If your baby doesn't like being on their tummy, perhaps starting with your baby on their back and doing what's called a lying leg press exercise might be a good way to go. So you can see I have baby on his back. I'm just playing with his legs. I'm getting him comfortable so that he is relaxed. And this is a special little technique that I'm going to explain to you while I pause the recording. So what I want you to do is sit on the ground with his legs in your hands, have him lying on his back with some sort of a little toy that he can hold on to distract himself. And now what I want you to do is to bend and straighten his legs, but you're going to do it in a specific way. You're going to bend his legs and cue him to push his legs against you. And the ultimate goal is to get him to start pushing himself backwards on the ground, where you're building his leg strength to where you notice I'm not pushing him, I'm letting him push against me. And that is the whole idea. What you want to do is be applying some pressure through his hips, through his knees, towards his body with your hands, even as you are straightening his legs. I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but once you try it with your baby, you will get the idea and he will get the idea. He's kind of resisting me there because he doesn't like working this hard. The next exercise that I want you to do is to put your baby to lay on his tummy, put a toy out in front of him that he is interested in getting to, and you notice where my hands are. I'm putting my hands under the bottom of his feet so that he has something firm to push off of against. A lot of babies go into this, what is typically called a frog leg position, where you notice his legs are shaped like a frog, the way a frog would lie. This is typical for a baby who does not like to be on his hands and knees, and he wants to keep his tummy in contact with the ground. And so what you're doing is just getting him to start doing some commando crawling where his entire torso is still in contact with the ground, and you're simply giving him something to push off of against as he is moving forward towards the toy. And I like to drag him back and have him do it a couple more times, and then gradually get into starting to shift the toy towards each side. But for right now, I'm just working with him moving straight ahead to get to the toy. Initially, you may not get a whole lot out of this exercise. Your baby may not be willing to push, but he is spending a lot more time on his tummy. He typically does not like tummy time. He's engaged with the book. I'm letting him take a bit of a breather here and just play with the pages. But again, we're extending his tummy time gradually. And this is a fantastic activity to try with your little one, especially if they don't like being on their tummy. This exercise is to get your baby to actually start trying to bring their knees under their tummy on his own. Now you can see I have him positioned where he's holding on to the toy so that he's not bearing a lot of his body weight on his hands. And now it's easier for him to go ahead and tuck those knees. You see that little rocking movement that he's doing there with his hips? That's what you want him doing. That's him trying to get his knees under his body so that he can actually start strengthening those hip muscles, strengthening his leg muscles to where he can actually be able to start crawling on hands and knees. I call this next exercise baby rocking on hands and knees crying because this was actually the first time I put him on his hands and knees. And I'm going to turn the audio back on so you can hear him fussing and whining as I have him on his hands and knees. And this was the first time I did it. And what I want you to pay attention to is just the way his legs wanted to slide outwards towards the side. And I had to repeatedly keep putting his knees under his hips to get him to stay on that position. I didn't put him in for too long. Sometimes just a little bit is all they need, and then let him take a break. Next exercise in our progression is called rocking on hands and knees with support under his trunk. You can see I have something off the screen here that he is looking at. It's a little book that I have on end. And I'm just cueing him to keep his knees under his trunk and just actually bear his body weight on his hands and knees. Notice where I have his hands are directly under his shoulders, and I'm repositioning his knees so that his knees stay directly under his hips, and I'm just rocking him front to back a little bit. Sometimes you'll notice babies doing this on their own. They're just trying to find the limits of their stability before they collapse. This is the next exercise in our progression, moving from easiest to more challenging. You can see I'm literally helping him to move each knee individually. And what I want you to pay attention to is the way I'm supporting him under his trunk and cueing him to reach for the toy with one hand at a time. And then I'm moving the toy over to the other side, and notice the way he has to reposition his right hand in order to be able to maintain his balance. You see him move the hand there so that he can get it in the right position. You notice he collapsed down onto his forearm a little bit there, and I'm just going step by step with him. I am keeping his hips tucked, keeping his knees tucked under his hips. And you can see what I'm doing with my hands is right now. Pause the video so I can explain it to you. I am pulling his body backwards so that his hips are over his heels, and that way he's not bearing too much of his body weight on his arms, because this particular little one, his arms tended to get tired really quickly. And you can see that I'm cueing him to rock, but I'm also not battling with him. I'm letting him put his head down and take a breather if he needed to do. And his interest in the toy is winning, even though at this point in our session he was starting to get tired. Don't be surprised or upset if you find that your baby kind of toggles back and forth between one stage where baby seems like they're doing okay on their tummy, but they're not quite ready to be up on hands and knees, or baby transitions back into commando crawling as they start to get tired. This particular little one, he liked to roll over onto his back. So at this point, I was really happy to just have him extend his tummy time gradually and be able to make that little bit of a progression towards being up on hands and knees. And you can see me trying to trap him and keep him on his tummy for as long as I possibly could by helping him to engage. You notice he's just, okay, I'm finished with this. And he just pushed himself completely out of the hands and knees position. And sometimes that will happen. Some babies master the ability to be able to sit before they can crawl, and they just prefer sitting. Except sometimes they get stuck in the seated position and are not able to get out of the sitting position and into crawling. And so one of the things I like to encourage parents to do is, while you're playing with your baby, rather than trying to catch your baby all the time if they lose their balance, put something soft behind your baby so that if baby loses his balance, this one here, he tended to have his legs come up in the air and his trunk would go backward. So I have the cushion behind him so that I can sit facing him and engage him. Another little tip I can give you at this point is, if you're playing with your baby in this position, as baby starts to lean backwards, if you put your hands on baby's legs, you'll be able to cue baby to activate those trunk muscles and bring his body back up into the seated position. I like to have a baby toggle back and forth between working on sitting and working on crawling, because these two skills are so very much interconnected and intertwined, where they both depend on a lot of core trunk strength and stability. And so having baby work on sitting and also work on crawling at the same time, or just transition from one to another. I like to tell parents, if your baby is tired of crawling and you can do some work in a different position, move into sitting and have baby work on sitting balance, you are still doing some productive work as baby is continuing to play and baby is happy, he's not upset. You can see that he was struggling with the tummy time, and I let him transition and let him take a little bit of a break before I said, you know what, I feel like that was enough of a break. Let's go ahead and move on and do something else. I believe what I wanted him to do here is what's called baby squats, where I bend my knee and put him to stand above my leg, and I just have one of his feet on either side of my leg and cue him to come from sitting up into standing. I don't know if you just noticed what I did there, where I raised my leg up to touch his bottom and be able to get him to do a proper squat. Here's the solution for the squats. You notice the way I brought my leg up to touch his bottom and that cued him to sit? That automatically reloads him into the squatting position. Notice where his feet are. His feet are going to be directly under his knees. I'm giving him some support in the front of his trunk and on the back of his trunk, doing him to do a good quality squat with his body leaned forward slightly. This exercise is also going to help with crawling because it's strengthening those upper thigh muscles and his quadriceps, his hamstrings, his upper buttock muscles, all at the same time doing a good quality deep squat. Notice when he is standing just how wobbly his body is. That's another indication of some core trunk weakness and instability. And having him stand and just moving his body around in standing is a fantastic way to recruit all of his trunk muscles and bring them all together. He is doing quite the workout here today, and I was really happy with him and happy with just the amount of progress that I was able to get him to make. But it's important to recognize that it was happening gradually. As always, don't be afraid to stop what you're doing. Give baby a nurturing hug. He looked like he was like, listen, I'm petering out. I could use a hug break. And so I gave him a little hug break, let him hold on to me and give him a hug, as I could tell that he was starting to get tired. A lot of times when you notice your baby's legs are moving, but they're really not stepping, they're not doing anything, the legs are just going all over the place, it's really them trying to get out of the position completely and take a breather. And so this was really a productive session that him and I had together. And now you can see here, I believe I am transitioning him to do some squats off of my knee as I have him playing with a toy on the couch. And notice again, we are transitioning from one activity to the next in a fluid movement, a fluid flow where it's not super difficult for him as we're gradually tapping into all of these different skills and continuing to cue him to progress from one milestone to the next, even though one particular milestone may not yet have been fully accomplished. So there you have it, my friends. This set of exercises should get you well on the way to helping your baby to crawl. And if you have any further questions, please drop a comment down below and let me know. I read all the comments and I answer every single one of them. Some of them I actually turn into videos like this one. Now, before I forget, I created a free PDF that covers all of the milestones from 0 to 12 months. And it just tells you where your baby should be, what to expect, when to expect it. It's something you can download, print it out, slap it on your refrigerator, and have it there as a reference so that you know if your baby's on track and when to get some help. If you got value from this video, please consider liking it, subscribe to the channel, and sharing it with someone who you think would benefit from this type of content. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.